Hey everyone, and welcome back to another lore video, and just strap in. This time we're going on quite the adventure. So this started off because a short while ago, game director Ian Hazzikostas, he sort of hinted that time works differently in the Shadowlands, but we'd only know how much time would pass, well, after we leave the Shadowlands. Now, this really got us thinking like, wow, here's Ian talking about time skips. And this is going to be a new expansion. It's going to change things. It's going to have major revelations. So today, we are going to look at the Shadowlands themselves. And when we did, we found out some pretty incredible things. You know, what these revelations will mean for the Warcraft universe, what questions the realms themselves will answer, and perhaps more to the point, what questions they will raise, and a certain parallel. One to the Nighthold that has massive implications on the Eye of Aman'thul, on the Titans, on the Shadowlands, and on the setup of the Warcraft universe. What will our journey up the Tower of God from today's sponsor, Crunchyroll.com/Bellular be like? Oh wait, hang on, Torghast is the one, and wow, but while we're here, you should check out Tower of God. It is a Crunchyroll original that is brilliant. It is super well reviewed on my anime list, and guess what? This is the best thing. You can watch it right now for free on the 14-day trial, link down below. And Crunchyroll, it's the place for anime. It's on all your devices. All the episodes are professionally subbed, and, well, you'll get new episodes as soon as an hour after they hit TV in Japan, which is a pretty incredible feat. So, a boy, he's stuck in the ancient Tower of God. And as he ascends the tower, well, let's just say things get interesting. There is pretty darn major lore. And you know what? The parallels with Torghast here are just kind of hilarious. It's so natural. So you know what? It's a great time. I think you'll love the show. And if you go to crunchyroll.com/Bellular, you can watch it for free on the 14-day trial. It's a pretty sweet situation. So do that. And down below on that pinned comment, let me know what anime shows have you been watching recently. With that, cheers to Crunchyroll for supporting our team, and let's get into the Shadowlands lore. Yes, Ian confirmed one of our earliest Shadowlands speculations that time does indeed function differently there, but he also said that it functions chaotically, right? And, you know, the time skip that I've mentioned, it seems like the natural implication of what Ian said. And you know what? That for Azeroth is too much for this video. Let's be real. I mean, if that happens, it will change so much of Azeroth. We'll cover that in the future. But it does, however, raise a very important question for this video. One that I think you're going to get a pretty darn mind-blowing answer later on. Why does time work differently in the Shadowlands? What's going on there? I mean, it doesn't work differently in the Emerald Dream, and that's like the opposite of Ardenweald. Now, given the Titan hints that we've already got, and Aman'thul being the Titan of Time, it suggests a link between the Shadowlands and the Titans, and that something is rather fundamental to the nature of the Shadowlands there. Think about it, in the real universe, you know, time dilation is a thing. It's a natural property of just how stuff works. Time gets real strange at 99.99999% the speed of light, and then there's all that stuff about, you know, accelerating one end of a wormhole, if it turns out those things do exist. You know, there's wild stuff, but it's all part of the base conditions of the maths that drives the universe. Now, as applied to the Shadowlands, it suggests that whatever's going on here is real deep. That this time stuff in the Shadowlands, it's like a fundamental property of the cosmos, and maybe even of creation itself in Warcraft. And learning what creation would be like is pretty interesting. And I think the shadow of life's origins will be found within the realm of the dead, and that we players will learn far more about how the Warcraft universe actually came to be. More on time later, but let's get into pre-patch and Maldraxxus. We know that the Shadowlands pre-patch is going to be Scourge-based, right? Dealing with the consequences of the Helm of Domination's destruction. Yes, this is actually finally Blizzard dealing with the consequences of King Tyrannus' famous words that there must always be a Lich King. From what we know, the pre-patch will be set primarily in Icecrown and around Northrend, with the story centering on Bolvar and the Ebon Blade, along with the champions, the adventurers of Azeroth, who are going to be fighting back against whatever happens. Now, we can hope for Necropolis, sieging capital cities, and the zombie plagues of older events, but I actually suspect the Blizzard is going to do something a little bit different. You see, this time, right, we know so much more about the Scourge, right? We know how they are based on the Necrolords and how the power of Maldraxxus actually seems to have been imbued into the Helm of Domination itself. Now, this is all going to be, this pre-patch, it's going to be our introduction to the morbid culture of the Shadowlands, the dipping of our toes into the realm of the dead by having them come to us. Of course, by the time the expansion begins, we will be pulled into the Maw, only to escape via the power of Azeroth pulling us away from it. Now, to understand the Scourge, let's talk about Maldraxxus. So, Maldraxxus is the self-defense system of the Shadowlands, and whether it was an emergent quality of the Shadowlands, or it was something that was designed by its pantheon of death, or just the Arbiter, we don't know right now. And this is why the Necrolords look so brutally utilitarian. It's like, hey, you need another hand to hold a knife? Just stitch a hand onto your armor. And this is something that's reflected in the Scourge and their just morbidly brutal and effective way of waging war. So, we know where they came from, but how is this going to impact pre-patch, and what will that mean? Well, we're gearing up to enter the Shadowlands, but have we considered what might come out to meet us? See, the Helm of Domination's destruction, that is important. That will be noticed. Look how it shattered the sky, shattered the link between worlds. So I would not be surprised if powerful characters actually came out of the Shadowlands ready to defend their realm against the living, against us, those people who should not be in the Shadowlands because we're not dead. That is one way of things going down. The defenses of Shadowlands acting against us because that's what they're supposed to do. Sylvanas, triggering an immune response almost. And you see, while they may look horrid, the Necrolords are not really that. Like Draka, Mother of Thrall, she's one of them. And it's not because she's evil, it's because of her strength and her will. Her duty is to defend the Shadowlands after all. Another angle here is that the Jailer and Sylvanas could actually launch an attack on us, but that we then maybe push them back, but are sucked, lured into the Maw in the process. Now, this could be via their allies from the Shadowlands coming to attack us, or it could be the Jailer's own beasts from Torghast entering our world through Torghast's counterpart, Icecrown Citadel. I mean, just how much power over his tower's counterpart does the Jailer have? Especially if you think about where the Runeforger is, Frostmourne, the Lich King's armor, were they originally commissioned by the Jailer? Either way, it will have a uniquely Shadowlands feeling, this pre-patch, and it will push forward our understanding of what the Scourge actually are. There is then another link to be explained, and that is that the Azerothian Scourge's architecture was based on that of the Nerubians, which is almost identical to that of Maldraxxus. Now, the Nerubians are an ancient race that stem from the old gods, and that is a parallel that is too large to ignore. So suffice to say, that is a history lesson that I cannot wait to have. There is then one more impact of the Helm's destruction for us to talk about here. There are still undead across Azeroth, such as, in the Plaguelands, in Silverpine, in Duskwood. Now, we were told that those feral Scourge would run rampant if their master was not holding back. So, surely then, parts of Azeroth will be ravaged by those feral Scourge. Let's move on to another realm. The connections between the Nathrezim and the Venthyr just keep on piling up, and this is going to be insane. It's going to raise as many questions as it will answer. Specifically, we've got the introduction of their leader, Sire Denathrius. Now, his title suggests that he is the patriarchal leader of the Revendreth vampires, a Dracula-like figure. And we get fairly solid evidence of his Dreadlord origins. There's names that are similar, but there's a quest called A Lesson in Humility when Denathrius is told, "You were once the Lord of Dread." I mean, come on, that's pretty in the nose. Now, we've got a few speculations to go through here. The most straightforward is that Denathrius was a Nathrezim who died and went to the Shadowlands. But the thing is, he was the first Venthyr. He must be incredibly ancient, and also, he's not void and he's not demonic, because that's where he ended up. So he must have appeared so long ago in cosmic time that it was before the Fel and before the Void got to his people. We know that the original Nathrezim were powerful vampiric scholars of immense knowledge, and basically that Illidan's destruction of the archives of Nathreza were almost akin to burning the Library of Alexandria, destroying those ancient secrets. Remember, the Nathrezim are so ancient that it was actually a void sect of them that ended up driving Sargeras mad, setting him on that dark path. So, Denathrius, therefore, must be an extremely ancient, original Nathrezim. Now, we're told that he created the Venthyr in his image, so much like how, say, Tyrna's Scythe is the pocket dimension of the Drust, it seems like Revendreth is actually the pocket dimension of the original uncorrupted Nathrezim, one that is now used to reform arrogant souls. Now, this would suggest that Denathrius set in motion the redemption function of this realm, perhaps even coming to some sort of understanding or maybe agreement with the Arbiter who does send him souls. I mean, he is, after all, one of the most influential figures of the Shadowlands, and this may even further hint to the function of this so-called Pantheon of Death, and that there is indeed some direction in the Shadowlands, right? That it's not all just natural, and yeah, this is a machine of multiple parts, and they all need to keep on working. Now, Denathrius, as I said, he created the new Venthyr in his own image, so he's the original. Now, given how the Venthyr are vampires, and the Nathrezim are said to be vampiric in their fundamental nature, this leads us to another point. If you follow that line of thinking backwards to its origins, it then implies that the world of Nathreza, well, it would have looked like a really hardcore version of Revendreth, given how Denatharius made the Venthyr in his own image, and therefore it stands to reason he would have based his pocket realm of the Shadowlands, Revendreth, after something where he came from, I guess. And you've got to wonder, what Dreadlord backstory will Blizz establish here, and just what's that going to mean for where we go next? With, demonic Dreadlords going to the Twisting Nether, as we know, it really does seem like Denathrius might actually be the only original Dreadlord left. I really do have to wonder if Lothraxion actually knows much of his people's ancient past. So yes, this one asks more questions than it answers. That much is for certain. Ian so casually dropped a lore bomb on us that there is a Pantheon of Death. This was huge because it meant that the inner workings of the Shadowlands weren't as arbitrary as, just being the Arbiter's servants, right? This Pantheon of Death may explain why the workings of Death are so often described by Blizzard as a machine. Now, the Shadowlands have a self-defense system, Maldraxxus, a prison for the truly damned, the Maw, a repentance realm, Revendreth, a cleansing realm, Bastion, a rebirth realm, Ardenweald, and many more that we surely have not discovered yet. Now, these main realms, they serve very clear functions, so surely things need to be designed and they need to be directed. Who armed Maldraxxus? Did Denatharius begin this redemption cycle? And perhaps most pressing of all, who set up this Pantheon? Is it a Pantheon or is it the Pantheon? Are we going to get some sort of set of death variants of the Titans? Or will that Pantheon just be a collection of the most powerful figures of the Shadowlands? There certainly are questions there, and those questions lead us to the original Titans themselves. When these questions of cosmic consequence appear, I always find myself just kind of wondering why. Why does it all work so perfectly? Just so. Why is it so ordered? And there's clearly some direction going on here with how things pan out. And continuing that thought, there may actually be a connection between the Titans and the Shadowlands, and more than we've said before. When we saw that first Jailer's silhouette, we kind of thought they were going for this damned Titan motif, chained to the Shadowlands, maintaining the Maw's vital function. And while that may still be true, seeing the more general way the Titans have influenced the Realm of Death does make me think that the relationship there is rather fundamental, right? That it's not just that the Jailer was kind of imprisoned there, maybe instead that the Titans have got way more to do with this place than we may think. And this is where we're going to get into the real stuff. Look at the aesthetic of Oribos, right? Now, it's the center of the Shadowlands, and its titanic origins are clear. Just look at it. Now, which came first, Oribos or the Titans, or are they all part of the same whole? Because this big system, this megastructure of Oribos, that is the center behind the curated realms of death, and a project of that magnitude, building this whole realm of existence, that has only been accomplished by the Titans before. I mean, just think, A&R shaped the Emerald Dream out of something, so the Shadowlands must have been shaped out of something. Now, a great example of this Titan interplay, this is big. It's this chamber. This chamber was recently discovered in Oribos, and it bears a striking resemblance to the cavern in the Nighthold's catacombs. And that is where we fought the Chromatic Anomaly. And of course, further up, Elisond. Now, this chamber was built to focus power from ley lines into the Nightwell. In Legion, we stabilized that using what? Using the Eye of aman'thul. Now that Legion stuff was all about time energy. And then recently, what did we have? We had Ian talking about the nature of time in the Shadowlands. Now, the Eye of Aman'thul, which comes from Aman'thul himself, is literally said to have power over space-time. So, is this time energy funnel setup a Titan blueprint? I mean, we've seen it twice. Once in Azeroth, once in the Shadowlands. So is that the Titans? Or did the Nightborn, who were renowned scholars with an interest in both space and time, did they manage to peek into the Shadowlands and maybe steal its design? Well, whatever happened, we've seen the same time energy funnel in the Nightwell and in Oribos. Just look at the screen, look with your eyes, the resemblance is undeniable. This is clearly more proof of Titan involvement, and well, the link, between that and Elisand's magic, and her magic, remember, was gained via the Eye of Aman'thul. Straight to the Shadowlands. This is undeniable, and what this could mean would just be huge. So, evidence is clearly mounting here that someone ordered the Shadowlands. And that makes you think, outside the bounded gardens of the dead that we will explore, there must be an infinite expanse of pure cosmic death energy. I mean, what came before the Emerald Dream? That was ordered into existence by Aeonar, so what of the Shadowlands? And then I think, if not Argus, then who? Was it Aman'thul? At this stage, there certainly are enough links to suspect that Aman'thul may have quite a bit more going on than we may think. The Wild Gods really did take quite a hit in BFA, but that's all been leading into the Shadowlands. Ardenweald is full of our favorites, right? You've got Razan, you've got Hirik, you've got Damballa, the Loa of Treachery, who's also getting a model now. And past the confirmed storylines that we've talked about, one thing of the greatest magnitude, I think, will be the evidence that we get for the Lifelands, right? And, to me it seems that to say Emerald Dream expansion is kind of the same as saying Ardenweald expansion, or Bastion expansion, if you get my point. It's just looking too small. Now, another dark development is that each realm has a dispassionate way of using souls to fuel the ecology of the dead. These mindless Kyrian angels who are purged of their personality. For others, the term ecology is very apt, as they essentially get turned into fertilizer for the rebirth of the wild gods. So there's a lot of rather dark links there that you then think, if this was all created by the Shadowlands and you literally have these souls being used as fuel and the Titans are behind this, then that's a bit dark. Should we be more suspicious of the Titans? And I actually would think, yeah, perhaps we should. We then have our final realm of Bastion, and this is where I think the parallels are the most clear. So the Valkyr, right, they were based on the Kyrians. Now, the Kyrians serve the function of guiding the dead. And even this has got implications. You would then think, why does the Shadowlands produce Valkyr, as, the original Valkyr were Kyrians, or are Ascended Kyrians, and then the Spirit Healers? Spirit Healers, come on. Does the Shadowlands know that sometimes a soul is actually doing a pretty good job in the realm of, life and should stay there? Also, the Ascended Kyrians, they were the original Valkyr. But Odin created his Valkyr after making a deal with a Shadowlands spirit. And that seemed to be some dark, spooky stuff. So what was that deal? Is it dark? Is there something disturbing and very bad at the pristine heart of Bastion? I would say so, and to be honest, having Odin do something morally questionable, that would fit perfectly in his, being real, very arrogant. Odin's a total dickhead if you actually go into his lore. So him doing something there, thinking that he can arrogantly get away with it, that his plan is right, well, that would be bang on character for him. So there you go, and wow, now that we've truly waded knee-deep into the Shadowlands lore speculation realm, I kind of feel revitalized here. There are some genuine mysteries that are actually, I think, being set up in an intelligent way, and that's exciting. I think it leads me to think that some of these could have a satisfying payoff. We don't know how the factions will figure into all of this, but I think that's okay at this stage. I think it's important that Blizz just get down the fundamentals of what the Shadowlands, what the realms actually are, before letting us, rampage all over them. And just considering the fundamentals, I think my parting questions for you today is, what do you think of this Death Pantheon? That's one. What do you think is Aman'thul's involvement, right? And what are those time parallels as well? I'd really love to know, and I guess it's interesting. My only hope here for Blizz is that there's so many questions we've brought up in this video. And one of the things is in Shadowlands and sometimes in Legion, right? We had all these old lingering questions from the world. And in Legion, like, what did Blizz do? They went, you got questions? Well, bang, 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 bang. We've answered them all. And they weren't always that satisfying. Like, you know, the Master Glaive in Darkshore just being some dude. That was pretty boring, right? And some of that happened in, happened in BFA as well, where they had so much lore potential and they just blew through it at maximum speed. So what I would say here is, Blizz, you know, I think this is really cool mystery, and that mystery is so fun to just have floating around you, right? It gives you this mystery, this adventurous feeling. What I would say is, in order to retain that, pace out the reveals very slowly, and maybe don't actually answer every question. These things are really fun to speculate on, and I think just having those mysteries and having the questions can really add to the adventuring experience of going through a fantasy world. And sometimes we can just let them lay low. So there you go. That is it for today's video. Be sure to check out Tower of God on Crunchyroll. The link is down below. 14-day free trial. What are you going to lose? You're going to get some cool anime. It's going to be a fun time. So that is it for me. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.